welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by my Myron.
Hey, folks. I love that intro, Nick. That music is insanely good. That is so awesome. Where did we get that from?
From our old friends over at Punk Flesh, man. Kick ass, man. They check them out. They're on. By the way, they're on Spotify. They're on all the platforms as well. I mean, if you're, Amazon, not Amazon, Apple Music and all that stuff, you can find their shit there, and give you a little bit of change of pace. But 100%. So that I'm a big fan as well. We referenced this before we started recording, and we don't want to say, but it was kind of a cool week. Good lunch.
Yes.
Talking about, some things going on behind the scenes. So we got a little talk to some friends of the show about a movie coming out that we're really excited that we're, once it's all, we're allowed to kind of have that conversation about this movie, we're going to be excited to, be involved in promotion of it. I think it's going to be fun. It's really fun.
I love the fact that the concept of friends of the show keeps growing, and we have met and got to know so many cool people while we've been doing this. That's one of my favorite things about it, is all the cool people we met.
And the people that we had lunch with, I always tell people, it's really cool in the wrestling business to actually meet and have relationships with just people that are nicer than they should be.
Yes.
That's how, or they have to be. Let me rephrase that. That's a better thing. So,
exactly.
But more information on that to come. I mean, there's going to be lots of stuff. And listen, I mean, there's going to be some private stuff that'll only be available on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
We're going to release some of that stuff early over there, amongst many other things, obviously. YouTube, just search out Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Become a member there. More importantly, like it. Subscribe to the page. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything. But, really importantly, I always tell people, become a member and you get the stuff early.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, there's really probably going to have to change the format, because I didn't realize how complicated this was going to be with when I release things. You can't on your phone, make it go for only members to where it's public. I physically have to come to a computer to actually turn it from members only, not the jacket, but actually, where you could see, to actually where it's a public. So, and it's, friend of the show, Hold My Beer Hansen, pointed that out one morning when he was messaging me at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not even awake at that point and want to know, where's the show? And I was like, what? I was like, So, yeah, I tried to do it from my phone. You can't do it. So either one of two things. I've either got to start doing it before I go to bed, just go ahead and release it. Or I'm just going to say, look, the damn thing's coming out by 9 a.m. or something Thursday morning.
Well, once I get up. I mean, you get up fairly early, but 7 a.m.
I do. It's rare. It's rare that I'm late. I mean, usually I'm 7:30, 6:30, 7:30.
I mean, I know I can always text you after 8 o'clock and you'll answer.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Not so much. Just depends on where I am that day, folks.
You can text you at the crack of noon.
Most days I'm at work and busy by then, but if I'm not working, I'm not working, folks.
He's like, you ain't working. You may not be up. That's what I.
No.
Yeah. So. Nope. But listen, man. Look, tons of stuff to talk about, but let's talk about the big thing. Look, somebody who's always doing some work.
Man.
This guy right here, man. I mean, just John Cena. Listen. Let's just start, man. Because look, the mailbag filled up this week, so that's obviously one of the questions. So I'll let you read the question.
Fire it up.
Go ahead. I already put the picture up, and so go ahead and read the question while we're
Our
here.
friend Ken from Carson City, Nevada, wants to know: the WWE promoted Raw heavily around John Cena, and even said he was the GOAT. Do you guys think he's the GOAT? I think he's the whole barnyard of GOATs. John Cena is the greatest wrestling ambassador we've ever had.
You kind of have to. I always tell people, it's funny when we have these wrestling conversations. You have to step back for a second. And, first of all, yes, Raw was heavily promoted and revolved around John Cena. He was in and out of segments all night. He was in the ring, all that stuff, and deservedly so. I will say I'm going to tangent where I said I wasn't going to tangent. This John Cena conversation has about 30 tangents in it. And the notes are not that hit, but there's tangents for days. First one being, wasn't it pretty cool Like this, just how they did the episode, kind of like with him tied, and it revolved around him so much.
As he came out earlier in at the very start of the show, John Cena going through the backstage, shaking everybody's hands, drinking some of the, he got some of the Street Profits Red Cup stuff. He just did everything, folks. He was a human, okay, that everybody in the back related to and everybody in the back loved. And he went through and he talked to all these people, shook their hands, goes down to the ring as a king. You don't get bigger than that, okay? You don't excel both with the fans and the wrestlers unless you're something special.
Well, what I meant is just like for them to pay, like I think he deserves the respect, the show. But what I wanted to ask you too, though, is like Mark Henry brought up a great thing about, wouldn't it be cool if they did more of these?
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome. I think pay these guys before they die. Okay, it sucks when somebody dies and their kids have to come out on the Hall of Fame and induct them, or their old tag team partner, or whatever. Pay these guys tribute now. It's going to help ratings. Okay,
Yeah. I mean,
you're going to make big shows.
Listen,
You'll have something to promote.
Let's be fair. We don't want like 15 of these a year. Like we're talking like 2 or 3 maybe. Like,
yeah.
Because it's got to be somebody this big, and it warrants, hey, when is their anniversary? Like their 10, 50, or their 20, 25, 30, whatever. Like give me a reason, and you weave them in and out all night. I think, like we, up until this point, we still don't. They hadn't done the ratings or anything. I haven't seen them yet. I probably will do it during a commercial or something here while we record. So I thought that part was cool. Now to answer the question about is he the GOAT, like it's hard to compare eras, and how many times do you hear that? It's about with sports, it's that way. With wrestling, it's that way.
That a lot of the part goes into our next question. When they ask you to pick your favorites or your biggest wrestlers, were they wrestlers? Were they sports entertainers? What time period were they from? Were they on TV? Were they just did house shows because there was no TV at the time? It's so complex to do this. But in his era, John Cena has done more for professional wrestling, I think, than anyone else.
For first, let's go like in the ring, right? So it's one of those things too where, and I've said this for about many things, being television shows, comedy. I say it and people laugh when I say that, but like, how much more difficult was it to be John Cena to be PG, like post Ruthless Aggression when they went full PG, like knowing there's words you can't say, and I know they loosened it over the back end, like kind of PG-13, but like Raw, during the Attitude Era, you could flip people off, you could cuss, you could say whatever, and if there's one thing that I've found, wrestling people think that that's the easy answer for everything. And this is not a knock on either promotion because they do it in both and they do it in multiple promotions for that matter. I am so tired of the flipping the bird, wrestlers flipping off other wrestlers because you're just like, that's supposed to be edgy and and it gets a pop. And I'm like, okay, what does that say about us as wrestling fans that's what gets a pop? I'm like, that's so third grade, like bink.
Yeah.
But it's also like the language. Like, I don't need you to cuss because that's the easy. To me, I always say that's a cheap pop, cheap heat. Like to to cuss.
Exactly.
If you can say think about the greatest promos of we talk about guys like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and our names. Not a cuss word in there. Nothing. Even.
Well, the thing was, if it's in context, it's okay. And I got in trouble with my current girlfriend when she met my daughter when she was 8. I taught my daughter that if you're going to say bad words, if you say them in context, it's not that big a deal. Well, my child developed not only a great ability to curse, but a great ability to curse correctly. And I respected that. I still do. But if you want to say shit, or you want to say something like that just for the effect, it doesn't work for me. I need it to work into the storyline.
Right. But think about
everything has to fit.
He didn't do any of that.
No.
And he still cut really good promos and on and like, so for him, like what he meant to the company as a whole, like as far as representing the brand that they were pushing in that PG era. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
you want to know how much I think he meant to the company, and not just from a wrestler standpoint. And we'll address that in a second. That'll be my next phase. I'll get into the actual wrestling part. But as far as being the face of, the face that runs
Mm-hmm.
the place, the face of the brand,
Mm-hmm.
that they and how this company became public, like that people want to do business with it. That's John Cena. Like that's your face. That's kind of how it
Yes.
started happening. When it comes to the in ring stuff of it, it was so funny. I was listening to Busted Open, Mark Henry, Bully Ray, and Dave LaGreca having a conversation, and this may be blasphemous to some fans for me to say, but like when you think about wrestling, like everybody says John Cena can't wrestle, he sucks, blah blah blah. Make a list and go through history and say, I'm going to talk about the guy on the other channel, CM Punk. Oh my God, he's had some of the greatest matches. I would argue that the most important match in CM Punk's career was him defeating John Cena for the title. Then you sit there in your head and go, okay, well then like AJ Styles. He would tell you, by the way, the most important match is like John Cena putting him over in WWE.
Oh yeah, that was that was a Royal Rumble, wasn't it?
I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember
Or
it all,
something.
but
I can't remember which one it was, but I still remember the match, and he made him look like $1,000,000.
yeah. Which,
John Cena.
but here's the thing: we know AJ's $1,000,000, but people get caught up into like it wasn't a 5-star match. That's not what I said. I said it was the most important match of that person's career, and the
Yes, you have
reason.
to.
Hold on, sorry, real quick. So the reason I bring that up is in this triangle conversation, it is said. I can't remember if it was Mark Henry, Bully Ray, or LaGreca. They had has John Cena had more most important matches in other people's careers than people have, like one person have. If that makes sense, like
No, it's you're 100% right. They're 100% right. He is a builder. He is the ultimate sports entertainer. John Cena can't wrestle, but John Cena sure as hell can sports entertain. Okay, he goes out there. He he doesn't have a problem putting people over. It doesn't hurt him to lose because he's anointed or whatever you want to say about John Cena. He's been there with the company through all this. And if you ever need goodwill, he's the goodwill ambassador. When they went to China, he learned how to speak Chinese. So he could do the press conferences in Chinese. Nobody does that. Nobody does that.
let's go to the part 2 of what nobody else does. This is the part Mark Henry addressed it, and then I actually have a personal story that look, it's well documented here on the show, but I'll tell it again.
It's a good story. I like to hear it over and over again.
You know, Mark Henry points out, like, John Cena does this, some of the most heartfelt like work around, like the charity works. We all talk about like how many Make-A-Wishes he's done. And he brought up like, and it's true. I mean, if you've been even around this, even once in your lifetime, that's the crazy part. If you've done this once, like how hard must it be to go visit these kids that they're a Make-A-Wish child because the odds are they're not going to make it. Like they're a dying child.
Oh yeah.
And all they want, like all, I mean, I shouldn't say all they, look, I'll digress because I don't want to say that incorrectly. They're giving a wish, and they're wishing, can I meet John Cena? And he makes that happen, and then just to 650 times to go out of your way to make somebody's their wish, and that's in the Make-A-Wish program true, knowing that they're there because they're probably going to pass.
Oh God.
It's and here's the part where it's like, okay, so how does that even relate to me, right? How does this even tie into each other? I always tell people, like, if there's no John Cena, there's no Make-A-Wish, I'm not married to my wife because she had a student who was a Make-A-Wish kid who got to go to Phillips Arena at the time, State Farm, whatever, now. Got to meet John Cena, the whole thing. He came back to school. He was talking about it. She, of course, was like, oh, this was during the Rock. This is the first Rock Cena run that they had together. As far when Rock had left and come back, she doesn't know anybody who watches wrestling. She was not a wrestling fan. She nothing, and was just kind of like, who do I know that even would remotely be watching this WrestleMania pay-per-view, just so I can have something to. And here's the thing, she's doing it so she would be able to talk to that kid, her student. That's what she wanted to do it for, was so they would have something to talk about when he was at school. And of course, we went to high school together, so we knew each other. So she messaged me and was like, hey, are you going to be watching the pay-per-view WrestleMania? Of course I am. She comes over, boom. Next thing you know, bibbity boppity boo, we're married. I don't know what happened. Something that happened. So
Wow.
with no John Cena,
you're gonna make me cry.
Yeah, with no John Cena, no Make-A-Wish, no, there is no. I'm not even married, but to hear Mark Henry say, like, when he had kids, he had to stop doing it. He's like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, mentally, emotionally, he could not do the hospital things anymore.
Well,
and John Cena just does it and does it.
I did a month rotation in a hospital, and seeing the death of a person you saw the day before, it really got me. And I was like, I'll never be able to work in a hospital. I have to find something else, because that's death head on. John Cena is dealing with death head on of children and able to handle it. Now, people might say things about John Cena. Maybe I don't know, but there is nothing he could have possibly done that would ever exceed the amount of good he's put back into the world. And that's why I respect the man. And the Peacemaker series was awesome too.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much of, like, I always tell people, like, the final note, to put it into perspective about, like, I don't understand the dislike, the hate, or whatever. When it comes to wrestling, that's all subjective. So for your hate for somebody, but for something that's subjective, I don't understand that part. But then last but not least, think about it this way. I couldn't imagine how accurate the statement was. During that conversation, Bully Ray points out his image, his success. He has done more good in that Make-A-Wish program than anybody on the planet, not the country, the planet. And to take all of those things and wrap it around your head and say, Bully said, it's one of us.
Yes.
Like, it's one of ours. If you're a wrestling fan, a wrestling person in the business, a wrestler, whatever, they're like, this guy, it's not a baseball player. It's not a football player. It's not a movie star, not a rock star. It's literally one of us that has done something. And you want to know the truth? It's kind of the same way when I say that about The Rock, about anybody who hates The Rock. I'm like, dude, this is a guy who came from, he's one of ours. I also attribute that's why he's so successful, to be honest with you. Same for Cena. Why does Cena do so well? Because I think at the core, people are loyal to him, and they respect him. Even the ones that were chanting, Cena sucks. I think those people respected him. It was just cool to say Cena sucks.
Well, it's wrestling. Okay. Ambassador comes up in my head again.
Yeah.
He's the kind of people, John Cena's the person people think of, the average person thinks of when they think of the WWE. And right now, that's a good example to have.
Yeah.
Because
by the way, and God forbid he stays out of trouble and doesn't really get in. His big scandal was whether he was going to get married or not to Nikki Bella. I mean, that was like the big scandal, right? He got divorced from his first wife, his girlfriend, his high school sweetheart, whatever. And but then, like, the biggest scandal of it all was, like, him and Nikki Bella, whether they were getting married or not. I'm like, if that's the biggest dirt you got.
Well, he did sell that $400,000 car. He had signed an agreement he wouldn't sell.
Blah blah blah. Yeah,
$400,000 car. Jesus
anyway, so which we're gonna kind of come back to the part where do you think he's the GOAT? Because it tied into another question, Myron, that I want you to follow up with and go ahead.
This is the one I was referencing earlier. Bennett from Lincoln, Massachusetts wants to know who's on your guys' Mount Rushmore. Well, this is a tough one This is the toughest question in professional wrestling, because this question is subjective, and it also I could tell you my Myron 12-year-old Mount Rushmore. I could tell you Myron 49-year-old Mount Rushmore. I could tell you sports entertaining Mount Rushmore, or I could tell you professional wrestling Mount Rushmore. It's different.
Very.
I don't know how it impacted me. So Nick, tell me who's on your Mount Rushmore.
Mine's always been like the Hogan, Flair, Austin, because I try to do mine based on importance to wrestling in the grand scheme of things, more than like I don't get it caught up in the greatest wrestlers of all time. The fourth person has always been kind of in and out, in and out. And it's funny because it's actually going to change. I've always said Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
I know, yeah, Myron's probably looking at the notes going like, that's not who's on your fourth pick.
It's not on your fourth pick, but I knew you were going to fucking say it, Nick, because Dusty Rhodes supported the industry at a time where they needed larger-than-life characters.
I mean, he was, without Dusty, I always tell people, because he was also NWA, WCW, booking, promote, so there's more pieces of that puzzle.
Yes, exactly.
That's kind of why he also gets kind of in there. But look, I get it. People argue I've argued over the years. I think Jericho's closer than people give him credit for.
Oh yes, Jericho is he has a chisel and he's carving out a fifth spot for himself.
He's really trying. Everybody always wants to argue The Rock, and I'm going to contradict my Austin answer. Austin is in his place because at his peak, I don't think even Hogan was hotter. I don't think there's ever been a hotter star.
I agree.
The Rock, I don't know if you say with him and his run with Austin kind of neck and neck, I don't know that he was ever higher than Austin. Blasphemous, I know. And I don't think Rock didn't really wrestle that long. Doesn't.
Rock's, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of always my thing. And then, of course, I always joke, Andre always deserves to be the fifth spot, but kind of off on his side, because I think there's just something special about Andre. But if I have my four, it's Hogan, Flair, Austin, and Dusty. That's my four. I will go with that probably till the day I die.
And I've actually changed mine. Mine is going to have to be Hogan and Andre, because of what they did with WrestleManias and how they did that, and how those shows went over when I was a kid, going to the video store and renting the WB DVDs. VHS. Renting the WWE VHS, because that was the only way I could see these pay-per-views. And I was dying to get there as soon as it came out, to get there. That was a big aspect of my life. I have to put if we're just all time, I have to put John Cena because of his work he's done. Importance to me, Bullet Barb Armstrong. Importance to theater, The Rock. Importance to crossover culture, maybe Jericho. My fourth spot probably shifts more than anything else anything else I've done. But Ric Flair, look at Ric Flair. On the whole, has Ric Flair done more good or more bad for the wrestling business? But there's not a person you can. I really doubt you could talk to anybody in our age group that couldn't tell you who Ric Flair was, though.
Oh yeah, I think easily Ric Flair is because Ric Flair is he's the best wrestler, the champ, and that's why I always argue Cena deserves to be in that debate, because everybody always says, well, he's Ric Flair, he's a 16-time and I'm like,
so Cena. Well, and the thing is, you can't compare the money draw.
No.
To the network era, the WWE Network era, compared to the NWA era where they were selling out the Omni. It's a completely different world.
Yeah.
They make more money now probably than they've ever made before. But they also have less people watching on television than they've ever had before.
Which is crazy to think about. But I mean, look, we would love to know, what's your Mount Rushmore? Let us know. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Just share those thoughts. We're always curious, and I'm always interested to hear what the listeners out there think as well. But because if you don't email it and let us know, your only other alternative is you could always go start your own podcast. And if you wanted to start
Where are you
your
going
own,
to do that?
yeah, I mean, listen, somebody says, "Hey, I want to start my own podcast." I always say, "Do you have an idea for a great podcast? You can bring your idea to life and start podcasting today with Libsyn." Our podcast has been on Libsyn for over 5 years now, and we absolutely love it. Libsyn has everything you need to plan, launch, and grow your own podcast. Libsyn provides some of the best resources created by expert podcasters who will show you everything you need to know, like what equipment should you use, how to record great audio, how to get your show on places like Apple Podcasts and other popular platforms, and so much more. Plus, as a friend of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, when you sign up for Libsyn, they will give you your first month of podcast hosting absolutely for free. There has never been a better time than right now for you to start your podcast. Visit Libsyn.com and use the promo code FRIEND. That is LIBSYN.com, and use the promo code FRIEND, FRIEND, to get started and create your podcast today. That's right, man. Everybody's wanting to do a podcast. Everybody's wanting to start one. That's where I tell them to go. Head on over to our friends over at Libsyn.com. Use the promo code FRIEND. Sign up and get that first month free.
You went away from Libsyn for a minute.
I did.
Back in the first year or two.
How quick did we run back?
That was a miserable experience. Nothing worked right. We did live shows. We had multiple people ask us about Batista's penis. I would refer to any other podcast hosts as garbage right now. Never have we done so good as when we were Libsyn. We've been 6 years almost now. We have like a 2-month spell we weren't with Libsyn. You ever change back again, you're going to have to look for new co-hosts.
Yeah, man. No, I swear by Libsyn. I tell people all the time, if you're going to do a podcast, that's who you should definitely check out.
Just have support. Have the best support. Have people taking care of you. Have your. What do you have to do, Nick, to put our podcast audio version out on every single audio server
you
there
load
is?
It one place and it just does it all for you.
Bingo.
So I always tell people, you got to, make sure you're covered. But hey, everybody's doing a podcast, but we're still doing ours. But hey, Myron.
Yes, sir.
If they don't want to start one, they just keep sending in the questions. So, man, let's just keep it rolling, man, and let's get to the next question.
Vincent. Not Virgil, but Vincent. From Toledo, Ohio, wants to know, what are your thoughts on Money in the Bank this weekend? Well, hell, I watched Raw last night. Start to finish.
Yeah. By the way, apparently did about 1.98 or 5 or some million. First 2 hours broke 2 million. I looked, by the way, while the commercial was running. So, broke 2 million. They were over 2 million for the first 2 hours. Gee, I wonder why. Yeah, that third hour did dip a little bit down, like to 185, which is still pretty respectable for that third hour. So, kudos to them. But
I love the show. I love the fact that the final spots for the Money in the Bank matches were finalized last night. I love the fact that they started out with that battle royal to determine who was the final male, and Riddle won. I think they've got a solid pay-per-view. I don't think they need Roman. I don't think they need the title. This pay-per-view is an entertaining pay-per-view set up as it is right now.
So here's my take on it. I say this with all due respect to the undercard. Myron, what do we always say? Most shows, events, pay-per-views, whatever, are 1, 2, 3 match cards at most that are best. Everything else is filler.
God, your fingers are skinny even. You've lost so much weight. My little fat fingers are blended together, and you've got your little skinny fingers over there. I don't know if y'all have noticed or not, but Nick has, not only has Nick been on a diet, he's inspired me to diet too. He's lost about 1,000 pounds, I think. His fingers are bony.
I don't know if I'd use those words, but
as he mashes the control buttons with those bony little fingers.
Yeah. But what I was saying is that the card itself, like, look, I mean, I'm excited for the Usos and the Street Profits, 100%.
That'll be a great match. That'll be a great tag team match. One of the things we talked about earlier, we were trying to name all the legitimate tag teams in wrestling right now, and we had not got to 10 different teams.
No.
Think about it. In wrestling right now, name all your full-time tag teams and see if you can get to 10 teams. The Usos are probably the best tag team there is.
People get aggravated when we say that. I still think the Usos are the best tag team in wrestling.
But, well, okay, it does not matter they've not won the New Japan or the AAA tag team titles because they never wrestled for them. But if you put them in a position where they would have, I guarantee they would have won them all.
Like Theory and Lashley, I don't know how they get there because they've been building Theory for Lashley up. I mean, do you take the belt off of Theory on the role he's on? I don't think so.
You wait till Cena.
Somebody brought up a great point. We'll come back to that on another day about Cena actually wrestling somebody else instead. Because I know they say, oh, Theory. What about Gunther for the IC title? Did you know John Cena's never held the Intercontinental Championship? I did not know that. But anyway.
I didn't either. And Gunther, I mean, it's an Intercontinental title. It's on a guy from Germany. How intercontinental can you get?
Listen, how about this? If Cena's coming back to put somebody over, here's what I do. I agree with this. By the way, I'm stealing this idea. I'm totally telling you. He comes back. He beats Gunther at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental title. He's won every belt at that point because he would finally be there. But then you go to that castle, the King of the Castle, or whatever they're calling that pay-per-view. Gunther beats him back there. That crowd would go bananas that Gunther beats Cena, at their place.
Overseas. Damn. Yeah,
and it puts insane. Gunther over him because I don't know that Theory needs it as much as Gunther could use a big rub from like a beating.
Theory's doing real good right now.
Oh, he's 100%. Right now. Hard to believe. And here's the kudos, by the way. Theory, that's where we got sidetracked here. Theory's actually gotten better on the mic. We always worried about that was going to be his struggle when he got on TV, and he's gotten much better. So kudos to the kid.
To a kid we met in a gymnasium in Monroe, Georgia, several years ago.
Wild. The Ronda Rousey Natalia match. We're going to address that on a following question later in the show.
I'm up for that one. That's going to be awesome.
Listen, everybody knows that for some reason I am a Carmella fan. I think her character is very entertaining. Bianca Belair ain't losing. No. Lacey Evans and let's just go the women's and the men's Money in the Bank matches. Who's your pick to win these two?
That's hard because there's so many people in it, and I don't want it to go to a face. I can't lie.
Nope.
I don't want to go to face. But if I were to pick the guy I wanted him on, it'd be Riddle.
I think you're right. I think Riddle's going to win.
Seth Rollins is the easy booking pick because he's so good with it. Riddle's never won. Riddle flies around. Riddle could make an interesting story because his character is so over right now. As far as women goes, I don't know. Liv Morgan seems to be the one with the person they need to protect, the person they need to elevate, the person that to me is closer to taking over another high spot. Because you look at it, they have to elevate someone else in the women's division. They need to replace.
I was just about to ask you that. Is that what they need? I think the women's division needs somebody new in that main event status. Me personally, Alexa Bliss.
Shotzi is a great choice.
Agreed.
Great character, somebody that could get behind. I don't know what they're going to do with this. I'm going to watch this as a fan and just enjoy it. Can't help it.
My picks would be, I would prefer that it be Seth Rollins. That's just my take. The women, I would say Alexa Bliss. I know it's probably going to be Asuka, but she's done it before, so I don't really know that I want her to do it. I say Alexa Bliss. That's just my take.
Probably so. They're going to try to ditch that character and get her back into the mainstream.
Maybe. We'll see. That's a we see moment, I think. But since we're already talking about the women's division, let's just scroll right into our next question.
Our friend Steven from Dayton, Ohio. I'm tired of seeing rehashed opponents for Ronda Rousey. Okay, don't say Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Who do you think she could face to mix it up a little? Well, there's some good names in here, and I think this would make it. I think this would make a good conversation. So, Nick, who are your picks if you want a new foe for Ronda Rousey?
Now, listen, I'm taking into account, by the way, that it doesn't matter about the Raw Smackdown thing because eventually the draft's coming, I guess, in the fall, so we'll have some movement again, and then I'm going to get creative with some of it. I think Doudrop's a good choice just for the sake of she would be able to overpower Ronda.
The powerhouse, as they call the big girls now. Yes.
I put she's physically imposing. You know, she could impose her will.
She dropped on somebody the other night, and I'm like, oh my God, she crushed her.
Yeah.
Okay. She could have broke her spleen.
When it comes to the next name, Asuka, like I did not realize. You have to think about it for a second, but like I didn't really realize they haven't wrestled.
That's a match I would like to see.
That is definitely a match I would enjoy. Problem is currently they're on separate brands, so we got to do some shifting around to make that happen. But that's her. Bianca, listen, falls in the same.
Briefcase.
Yeah, Money in the Bank. You never know if she won. Bianca, you know, I know they're on the wrong shows. They're both champions on the opposite brands. But listen, it's simple, Myron. If we go to Survivor Series and neither one of them lose, they're going to face each other there that way anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because we always have that stupid brand supremacy champion versus champion thing. By the way, WWE, could you please kill that before we get there? Because I'm so sick of that. That's the dumbest thing ever. Lacey Evans, hey, she's a thought for the Money in the Bank.
I don't know what they're doing with her right now.
Anybody?
You know, I've just got my cable fixed back up. I'm on YouTube TV now. I love YouTube TV. I can watch all the wrestling I can watch. I've watched every single minute of every show since I got to YouTube TV. I love it. I'm not sure what Lacey Evans is doing. I hope they're doing something constructive with her because she could be money if they did it right.
Yeah. And I think her with the story with her and Ronda, I think there's a good back and forth there. I mean, Rhea's, you know, an easy answer as well. Wrong brands.
I love her. She could mess some shit up. She gave herself a concussion with a knee shot to the head. I haven't touched my knee to my head in 40 years.
Right. Now, the obvious answer that I'm stunned that we don't get more often is Shayna Baszler, right? Because then you get that. That's real.
Oh no, those two would tear each other apart. The shoot, fight, work, shoot type thing, jiu-jitsu and all that other stuff, Nick. Brutal.
Well, they've been friends for years, so they probably you ever hear stories about like the guys that you really get in there and you beat the shit out of each other, usually your friends.
Oh yes.
I can imagine how many times they have sparred in MMA.
Oh, yeah.
So I just would really love to see it. I think it would be a blast to see those two go at it. I think that's who I would get there eventually is that's her. Especially you got to figure if Sasha's gone, Naomi's gone, and you're looking for opponents, I think she's one because she's legitimate. That's I think that's the easiest. You could shoot her fast just because of the legitimacy of it. So
yeah. Well, women's division incredibly strong. They'll find somebody for Ronda that will give us great entertainment. I don't have any fear about that, folks.
No. You know, you did address Myron earlier about this whole diet thing I'm on. And, you know, look, that's why I was honored and proud. Like when we picked up this other sponsor that we've had here for a few weeks now. So always, man, I'm a big, huge fan of Athletic Greens. So make sure you take a minute and listen to the words these guys got to share. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted more energy and I wanted to see what was all the hype about. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, even aging. I personally use it because when I started this keto fasting diet I'm on, I was worried about the energy I was going to have. Not now. It supports better sleep quality, recovery, mental clarity, even alertness. By the way, it's cheaper than getting all the different supplements that's in this thing. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews and even recommended by professional athletes. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient and daily nutrition. It's 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements that you're looking to look out for your health. So to make it easy for you, Athletics Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit their website at athleticgreens.com/emerging. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Excited about that product.
Yeah, man. It's, listen, lots of those things have a weird taste to them. That's what I love about it is that, it tastes good. You can just put it I put it in a bottle of water, shake it up, boom, and just drink it because that's all I'm doing now is water anyway. So absolutely check out our friends over at athleticgreens.com/emerging.
No Mountain Dews, no sweet teas, no Miller Lights. I've not seen one in his hand in forever. If we ever get a sponsor from Smoking Greens, let me know.
The Big Green Egg, that's what I need. There you go. I want a sponsorship from them. But look, lots of big things. And speaking of big things, right? This past weekend, one of the biggest ones is everybody. Of course,
Lord!
Wants to
Everybody's talking about this.
Yep.
Devin from Springfield, Illinois, wants to know, what did you guys think of AEW's Forbidden Door? Well, Devin, that was a lot of wrestling.
A lot of wrestling.
Did it do what it was supposed to do?
100%. I tell people, look, it was a solid show. Was it too long? Maybe so. For me, yes, it was. But was it? I don't know. The crowd didn't seem to burn out, so they seemed like they were in there. If you're only judging it on match quality, very good pay-per-view.
Yes.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, they botched the end. They did not botch the end of the 4-way. Cole looks like he got a concussion and it just, shit went south. That's what happened.
It happens.
So what match-wise, it was success. Per Tony Khan, they think they did over 100,000 buys.
That's insane.
That's a win.
That's insane for 2022 to do 100,000 buys on a $50 pay-per-view. That's insane, folks.
Look, that was my worries. Was it going to do well? Because I do think it was still a pay-per-view that serviced their fan base.
Yes.
I think that's what it did. I don't know that it brought anybody new to the dance, which and look, maybe I was being too critical at that point when I said that, because my argument could be made simply, maybe that's all it was designed to do. It was like an ECW one night stand, right? Like it wasn't meant to draw new people. It was meant to serve that base and give them hey, this is for you, thank you, and eat it up.
Okay, well, the thing I was concerned, and I know this is crazy, that I was concerned that New Japan would not benefit from this. Do you think New Japan benefited or lost from this pay-per-view?
I don't think they lost, because here's the trade-off. They lost, in my opinion, when it comes to the matches, like win-loss, that kind of stuff. I think they lost. But I think the exposure, even as limited as it, some people would argue that it is on Dynamite and Rampage, their involvement, maybe that was the trade-off. Like, hey, we're going to get some exposure in America on AEW. People will learn something about our fans. Hopefully some of those fans, because listen, we joked about it a week or two ago when we said, sure, these people, you assume all AEW fans watch New Japan. Probably not. And if there's, Myron, let me tell you this. If there's one thing you can say, I will say this about AEW fans. They buy everything. They don't give a shit. They buy tons of shirts, tons of
the Pro Wrestling Tees text messages I get are insane. Folks, I may have come off as negative in the past, but God bless Tony Khan. He's made so many different opportunities open up. So
one hug at a time.
Good. Well, he's a hugger. He loves the touch.
Anyway, let's keep.
Yeah.
Now, I do think it's positive. I think Mox winning. Here's the thing: the thing that was deceiving is I don't think it was ever in question that John Moxley was going to win. I almost call him Jonathan Moxon. He's the quarterback for the West Canaan Coyotes. Callback, throwback.
Who?
Trust me, if you get it, if you know, you know. That's a moment.
You know, I haven't seen that many movies, so.
Proc the Croc Johnson, I expect a message when he hears that because he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But, you know, Mox winning the title, I think sets up him and Punk down the road. So I think that's a step in the right direction. I think that is something that will attract a casual fan base. I think when you see CM Punk versus Dean Ambrose / John, you know, I think.
Oh yeah. That's a seller right there. That'll work.
The only surprise I see was Pac winning. I know everybody's like all elated about it. I didn't get it. I thought it would be Miro. But that's just me personally, right? That's just who I would have picked to be that all Atlantic champion, you know, but
well, I would have picked Daniel Bryan.
Well, Daniel Bryan's hurt. He can't wrestle.
Well, he was on WWE Monday night.
But Daniel Bryan is Bryan Danielson's twin
Big
brother,
Show
like
was there
Ezekiel.
too.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen the Big Show in a long time. I was quite worried about him.
Yeah. So that's the twin. So it was Bryan Danielson's twin brother Daniel Bryan was over on Raw Monday, congratulating you. The Forbidden Door went like everybody thought it was just over the weekend, but that shit ran all the way through Monday night because the
door's flapping back and forth nowadays.
Yeah,
is it that forbidden anymore? Because when Vince is allowing guys to appear on his
that was
program,
totally an exception. I think we know that's John Cena. That's a whole other conversation.
So where did the door really open? Did it open Sunday night or did it open Monday night?
I thought more. I've told people that I thought that the Forbidden Door concept itself was a marketing tool. It's not like an actual, you know. But listen, I'm not blaming them. If it sold 100,000, it worked. So it was a great marketing tool.
Folks,
but
great.
When it comes to the pay-per-view itself, you know, I know. Look, we're gonna get to Claudio's debut here in a minute. We'll talk about him more in depth. I told somebody, I was like, somebody messaged me, I was like, oh, Tony Storm's easily going to beat Thunder. I'm like, are you lost your mind? Like, Thunder Rosa's over. She's not losing. I was a little surprised, to be honest with you, that FTR won the IWGP. And then I was like, wait a minute, why am I surprised?
Those guys are like a shelf at Reggie Harp's house, okay? Because they just display belts. That's all those guys do. Those guys are belt hangers.
Yeah.
They win all the belts. Probably the best functional tag team right now besides the Usos. I would love to see that matchup.
I mean, look, and that's my thing, because everybody's like, oh, you don't think they're the best wrestling tag team? I'm like, no, but I didn't say they're not top three.
Easily top three.
Yeah, that's why I said top three, because I have to sit there and think about it, because we made the conversation, you know, we discussed off the air of like, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Let me know in like national companies who are like really the legit tag teams, not like we took two dudes and we put them together tag teams. I mean, like legit, like the Usos, you know, FTR, and I get it, like Odinson and Pero, you know, like when we start going down to the NWA, you know, all over, who are the best tag teams, you know, and if you want to throw New Japan in there, that's well. I'm just curious as to know. I just don't know that there's 10.
We're talking about real tag teams. We're talking about the Road Warriors. We're talking about the Midnight Express. We're talking about Demolition.
Yeah.
Teams that wrestle together as teams.
Yeah, they are a team. Those are things I know. But, so I think and that's, you know, is it a win or a loss for New Japan the third? Because now you got to get those belts off of them. Does FTR go over there and wrestle and put them back? Or does somebody going to come on? Because it's a win if you're telling me, hey, we're going to send Roppongi Vice over whatever on Dynamite, and they're going to win those belts back from them. But here's the problem. Tony Khan has and look, I'm not trying to be negative. I literally like talked about not being negative about AEW, but I'm about to say history goes to show you that he's not the biggest fan of, you know, on his channel. Like you ain't beating his guys on his channel.
Well, drop him back in Japan. Guido, I trust his booking. Okay.
And that's my only question. So you had them win on your pay-per-view on that. So did both companies look at it like in New Japan, they dropped them over here on that pay-per-view in the United States, people over there won't even know it happened. I mean, they'll know it happened.
Oh, they'll know it happened, but when they come back to Japan, they're what do they call them, gaijin. They're the foreigners that are in here with our tag team titles, and we got to take them off of them. Maybe that's how they want to promote their pay-per-view.
But what I'm saying is, like, the loss will be, if it's on New Japan World, there's not a huge audience that's going to see it in the United States. They'll just notice, like, hey, they don't say FTR's the IWGP champions anymore. So anyway, but overall, like, I don't think you could be disappointed in the pay-per-view. I thought it was a good one. I thought the matches were all good. So kudos, good job, and I stand corrected. If they did over 100,000 buys, I'm happy, because that was our biggest question, was would they?
Well, the question is, to me, is when you're talking about catering to their fan base, they're not doing this for us. We can enjoy this show, but this show is not aimed at me and you. Okay? Me and you want to see what? 5 to 6 matches on a pay-per-view that lasts 2.5 hours, maybe
max. Yeah, 2.5
with
hours,
a lot of the video packages explaining everything. We're old school. This is not an old school type pay-per-view, but then again, they're not making it for us. The fact that we're buying these pay-per-views is a big win on their part.
That's correct. It's a win for them. I agree. But hey, look, because we're discussing the pay-per-view, there was a big thing that did come out. I said we would address it later, so let's dive right into it.
Luke from Salt Lake City, Utah wants to know, now that Cesaro has arrived in AEW, do you think he will be world champion? Well, he's Claudio now, and he's joined the Blackpool Combat Club. A great wrestler. But where do we go from here, Nick?
I personally absolutely love the wrestler. I love the talent. The only obstacle that I see is you addressed it. He's in the Blackpool Combat Club. To ask if he's going to be the world champion, I don't see that it's likely. He's going to be the third best guy on his own faction's roster, not even the company roster. I mean, Bryan Danielson and John, Moxley are going to be above him in the pecking order. Could things be moved around? If you want my take, he's going to be the Arn Anderson of their horsemen. He's going to be.
Ain't nothing wrong with being Arn Anderson.
No disrespect. What I mean by that is he's going to be the TNT champion, the All Atlantic champion. Maybe him and one of the other guys are going to be the tag champions. I just don't know that they're ever going to put him, and they may, because Tony Khan has surprised me a million times at this point.
Yeah,
could they make him the world champion? But think about that. They haven't really had that many world champions.
No, for what? 2.5, 3 years?
They're over 3 years, and they don't really. That's by the way, I admire it. They don't change the title that often.
I don't like those big title changes. I like to see people have runs, because then you can build something around it. That's why I don't criticize the Roman Reigns run, because the Roman Reigns run is something you can talk about.
Right.
I like what they do in AEW with their belt champion. They make it something special if they're not switching it every night.
Yeah.
So
like, look, I guess they teased he's going to have a feud with Eddie Kingston. They've got some history. So he's going to be tangled up in that for a while anyway. But just ultimately, Luke, I don't know that he's going to be a world champion guy. And by the way, guys, we say this about WWE, and I'm going to say it about AEW as well. You don't have to be the world champion to be booked successfully, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, he can have a great run and become a tag champion, the TNT champion, the All Atlantic champion, all of those things. And
maybe he's a Ring of Honor guy, Nick.
Very well could be. He could be a Ring of Honor world champion.
Maybe he's the guy they send over there to feud with Eddie Kingston. To something that was built in Ring of Honor years ago, and they're going to pay that off now. Tony Khan watches a lot more wrestling than I do, and I thought that was hard. Okay, but then again, he doesn't have a job outside of wrestling and football.
Well, he's running all kinds of companies, so I mean, that's what the theory is anyway. But
and hugging the shit out of some people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want him. Claudio, I just don't want people to get caught up into the, like, we heard it about Keith Lee. Oh, Keith Lee's on the buy-in. He's not even on the pay-per-view. Relax, guys. There's lots of time and let's let things play out, and let's see where he goes. And the kicker is, I do want to reiterate, Claudio doesn't have to be the world champion to have a successful run in AEW.
No,
that should not be your go-to. Like, is he going to be champion? because that was the knock. They never were going to make him champion in WWE, so Bob, he should leave. All right, well, if AEW doesn't make him champion, it's okay. Especially
But
in a promotion.
What is that? Does it pay more? Is the championship that big a level that it will define your entire career in 2022? I don't think it means what it did when you used to have to put a deposit down on the belt to be the NWA champion. It's a different game, folks.
Yeah. I guess, they're like, well, are they watching for you? Are they watching for, because you're the champion? Are they watching because of you? But, anyway. But speaking of watching, man, if you're watching us, we always encourage you to be watching us over on YouTube. That is our home now, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Just do a search on there. Boom, pull us up. Give us the old, thumbs up, the subscribe. Give us a turn your notifications on, all that good stuff. And remember, you can become a member there. Get stuff early, get stuff often, get it ahead of time. There's a little extra post I'm throwing in there as well. But look, we know not everybody likes to watch us. And listen, I'm okay with that because you can always find us on pretty much every podcast platform that's out there, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Amazon Music, Spotify, especially. That seems to be one of the big hits. We're over on Spotify. We love Spotify. Make sure you're giving us, subscribe there if you're an audio listener. Give us a 5-star rating and review. We would greatly appreciate that, man.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
And once again, to promote our sponsor, Libsyn, how do we wind up on all those channels, Nick?
Libsyn, exactly. That's what we tell everybody. It's simple. Just go to Libsyn.com and use the promo code FRIENDS. They'll give you your first month. If you've ever thought about trying a podcast, but you really want to do it on a professional platform, I tell people, just go over there, sign up, Libsyn.com, use the promo code FRIEND. They'll give you the first month. You can just try it out and just see. You'll see what I'm talking about, how easy it is, and but it just makes it so easy to be everywhere. I can't speak highly of them enough. So, but anyway, well, that's everything I have. I know we had an eventful week, and we're just trying to catch up. So the mailbag's going to be, if you're a listener of the show and you like to watch over on YouTube as well, to remind you, I already picked out this week's match. We're going to do another watch along this week because I found a match I really wanted to do. And put it out there because I don't want it to get too far away. It happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I definitely want to get that one up as well. So make sure that's why you want to subscribe over on YouTube, because if you're listening to us on audio, the matches aren't on audio. It's only over on YouTube. So, anything else before we get out of here, man?
No, the thing is, I don't think we said a bad word about anybody today, and that makes me happy.
Yeah. Lots of great stuff, man. Great week.
Yeah. So, folks, just enjoy professional wrestling. They do it for you.
Absolutely. That's what the man said last night. Well, but on that note, man, if I got nothing and you got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.